7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To pursue science is not to disparage the things of the spirit. In fact, to pursue science rightly is to furnish the framework on which the spirit may rise.
Welcome to the Holly. I just did it again. I was about to say welcome to the Holly Squalor. No, welcome to the Endless Frontiers, your home for all things science fiction and science fiction. I'm your host, Jed Morgan, and I'm still struggling with the brand change of this channel, apparently. I haven't said Hollywood Scholar in weeks at this point, but apparently it's still ingrained in my muscle memory to say Hollywood Scholar. But we are the Endless Frontiers now, exploring the endless frontiers of science and fiction, and apparently not doing a very good job at it, because I still stumble. I'm still human. I still make mistakes. But it's great to have you all here for episode 9 of the Write or Flight podcast. We've been going for 9 weeks with this, and I don't think we've missed one at this point. Been fairly consistent, even with the holiday season. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed these streams. They're fairly laid back. The writing exercise, especially the chat choose your own adventure segment, has made these a lot more fun than they were before. Before, they were just quick news segments that I'd clip out, and they didn't feel special or unique, even though I was talking about topics that other streamers in my sphere don't address, like the science aspect of things. But the chat choose your own adventure, I think, is what really sets it apart and highlights that write or flight aspect of it. The astronomy, exploring space, versus the writer aspect of it. So I think that segment was an essential aspect to making the stream feel unique and feel fun, because that's what I look forward to, is the ad lib portion at the end where we together craft these little short stories. So apparently my excitement for that segment overrode my scripted opening, and Hollywood Scholar just came out. I wonder if in like 5 years, let's say I'm still doing this channel, still doing Endless Frontiers, I still say Hollywood Scholar from time to time. I imagine I will. I'm just that type of person. Once something's ingrained in me, it's ingrained in me. So yeah, be prepared for that. For the years to come, there will be an occasional Hollywood Scholar slipped in for no reason whatsoever, and not intentionally so. But welcome in, everyone, whether or not you're watching on the YouTube or the Kick side. I see Legatus Legionist, the bot supreme, already doing the Lord's work on Kick, and I see him over there on YouTube as well. Welcome in, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. And anyone who's cycling in, I'm sure we'll get some more people in a little bit, especially after Adam the Renaissance Nerd finishes up with the daily dive. So while we wait for them, let's just get through the quick topic to start things off with, kind of the warm-up. Just kind of, it's an obligation to talk about this right now just because of how important it is, even though there hasn't been a whole lot of new development. Talking, of course, about the Artemis 2 launch coming up very, very soon. So, as you all know, the Artemis 2 launch is coming up very, very soon. As long as the weather holds and everything like that, it'll launch on February 6th. That is the first launch window. And they've already moved the SLS rocket into position, ready for that February 6th launch. And the astronauts have gone into their 2-week quarantine beforehand. So, it's looking very, very good that we'll be launching on the 6th. If not, maybe push it back a couple days, depending on weather. So, I'm hoping that they launch on February 6th. I will, of course, be live when that happens, and I'm excited to react to it. I don't know how well of a stream that's going to be, but I'm going to pull up NASA's feed, and we're just going to chill and watch it happen. I'm not paying the ridiculous amount of money to physically go to the Kennedy Space Center and watch the launch. They're really upcharging stuff like that, and it makes sense. So many people want to do it. Why not make a little money for the launch? NASA's budget is a lot smaller than it's been in the years in the past. It wasn't slashed like was talked about. They actually just won their case to try to keep their budget semi-consistent with last year's in Congress. So it's not slashed this year, but it's still much, much lower than it's been in years past. And, earning a little bit extra cash from people who are willing to do that, I think is fine. Being within that the close range that you can get on Kennedy Space Center isn't that much different than being outside the fence. There are plenty of great viewing places for the launch outside where you don't have to spend all that money. So they're not necessarily even excluding people. It's just that people who want that little extra behind the scenes access to get behind the gates at Kennedy Space Center. So more power to them for charging, and more power to the people who decided to spend that money. I'm just going to watch it from the comfort of my own home with the internet as God intended. But there's this little bit of additional news that we found out about the Artemis launch. A piece of fabric from the original Wright Flyer will be joining the launch and going around the moon, as well as a U.S. flag that first flew on the first and final shuttle missions, and a negative of a photo that was captured by Ranger 7. I like it when space programs and just explorers in general do stuff like this. Like, this doesn't matter to them. This isn't a whole lot of weight added to the SLS or the Orion capsule, so it's not damaging them. It's not a risk. It's simply a performative act, but it's remembering what came before, honoring the backs that they're standing on to reach this point. This is a century of technology snowballing into our return to the moon and eventual staying on the moon with moon bases, and of course Mars on the horizon after that. So honoring the past is something that I can always get behind and respect. So I've been very happy with a lot of what Artemis 2, about what NASA's been saying about the launch and everything surrounding it. They've been handling it very well. I've been critical of NASA over the last few years with what I see as the mismanagement of the Artemis program. This Artemis 2 launch was supposed to happen 3 years ago, I think was the initial launch window, if not even sooner. They're behind schedule. Bro, you talking so a lot? I don't know what that means, Daryl. Bro, you talking so a lot? Yeah, I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Am I talking too fast? Is there an issue with my audio? Absolutely, please let me know and I'll try to fix that. But yeah, I think this is a great little thing. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but honoring what came before is something to be celebrated, if nothing else. But welcome in, Daryl, and anybody else who's coming in. We've got significantly less viewership than we normally do at this point, but it's that time of year. There's a lot of sporting events going on. It's in the middle of the day on a Monday, and the daily dive is still going on. So we'll see as more people cycle in. I'm sure it'll get a little bit better. But how is everyone doing out there? I know it's cold out there. I know a lot of people in the US and Canada are suffering from a massive polar front. I don't have to worry about that. I have a balmy 80-degree weather outside my house right now. I'm worried about not getting sunburned. That's my chief concern right now. So I hope everyone else who's not as lucky as I am is safe. Everything's doing well. Their heaters are working and everything like that, and they're not snowed in. I know everyone's dealing with a lot of cold that they're not necessarily used to. Some of the northern states in Canada is, of course, attuned to this type of weather, but there are states getting snow at this time of year that aren't expecting it. They're not prepared for it. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a big polar front in Texas like 5 years or so ago, and they just didn't have the infrastructure for it. Like their pipes weren't prepared for it, so there were technical issues with stuff like that. So I hope everyone's infrastructure where they're at is able to handle this cold front. Hope everyone's doing well. Daryl says my English is sorry. You're from Brazil. Not a problem. Not a problem. I was just hoping to try to understand what you were trying to say. It's absolutely not a problem at all. Just hoping just to make sure that there wasn't an issue with my audio or something like that you were do. Judah says, doing good, still 19 degrees in Dallas. 19 degrees in Dallas. That's a lot colder than you guys normally get, I believe. You guys don't get too cold in Dallas. I know it's, you guys still winter more than we do here in Florida, but 19 degrees seems cold as hell. You guys have snow as well? I love snow. I grew up in Idaho in the mountains. When I actually moved from Idaho to Arizona, there was 2 feet of snow on the ground and it was negative 20 degrees and I went to 70 degrees in Arizona. But no, I grew up with snow. I grew up loving snow. I dug so many snow forts. That was the big thing when I was a kid is we do snow forts, snow forts, snow forts. I got very good at it. We tunnel all the time. So I have fond memories of snow, especially at Christmas. Christmas without snow isn't Christmas. So I've been very lucky the last few years. I've lived in Arizona and Florida where there's never any snow, but in the last few years, met my wife, married her, and everything like that, and her family's up in Connecticut. So we usually try to go do with them. They've gotten snow, so I'm starting to get Christmas with snow again, and that's been great. But I know not everyone loves it like I do, and there are, of course, dangerous amounts of snow like that. So hope everyone is doing well with that. Hail Rachel Morgan, welcome in. Hey, nerds. I'm saying hello. Legatus, it's negative 9 degrees Celsius, 16 Fahrenheit up here in the Great White North. Has Dallas joined us? Damn. If it's nearly the same temperature in the Great White North as it is in Dallas, I feel bad for Dallas then. Oh, yeah. Let me check what it is here where I am. Right now, it is 75 degrees here in Orlando. So, yeah, sunburn is the main thing that I'm worried about. I'm not attuned to this type of weather. Like I like overcast days. I like fog. Very much like Scottish weather or Seattle weather. That's what my body is prepared for. So I'm still suffering, just like all of you. It's kind of a dick thing to say, honestly, but the joke, chat. The joke. Hope everyone's doing well. Judas, yes, we got snow and ice. It was in the 80s a few weeks ago, though. Damn, that is quite the transition from the 80s to 19 degrees or whatever you said earlier. Yeah, 19 degrees. Oof. Damn. It's the constant change that I wouldn't want. I like a gradual build to a snow peak and then a drift off. You know, a classic easy winter is the goal in my mind. Something like at most you get a foot of snow. It builds up to that, and then nice hump to get over. But that never really happens. Rachel said, my mom sent me a picture of the 25 inches of snow they just got over the weekend. I didn't know it was 25 inches, Rachel. Damn. 25? My God. Yeah, I feel bad for everyone who's dealing with that much snow. That is way too much to deal with. That is not, oh, isn't it nice that it's snowing? That's get indoors, shut the shutters, and don't go outside. I'm sure where a lot of you guys live as well, in the US at least, you don't get snow there usually, like in Dallas. The snow probably isn't this bad usually, and the drivers around there have no idea how to handle it. So driving is even more dangerous than it typically would be in icy scenarios. Like here, here in Florida, the drivers are awful, and I can't imagine what it would be like if it snowed here. If it snowed in Orlando, the already awful drivers would be insane. It wouldn't be safe. I would refuse to go out on the road just because of the other drivers. Like I said, I grew up in Idaho, so I know how to handle driving in snow and ice and everything like that. So I'd be fine. I'd be worried about everybody else who wouldn't be fine. Yeah, 22 inches first, then another 3 inches on top of that yesterday. Well, like I said, I hope everyone is being safe out there. I'll try to send some of this Florida weather to help melt that ice for all of you, but I don't think the weather's going to listen to me. But I'll project those positive thoughts to push that weather up for all of you guys. All right, we're starting to get some people cycling in. Great. Great to have you all here. I think Adam might be wrapping up soon, so we'll be getting a raid from him in a little bit. So let's just jump into the next topic. Another kind of short one, just kind of obligatory as the story develops farther. So, as we've covered, on January 7th, there was an EVA aboard the ISS that was canceled. For those of you who don't know, that's a spacewalk. A spacewalk was canceled, which doesn't really happen. And then we heard news of an emergency medical situation that a few weeks later led to one of the crews aboard the ISS, 4 people coming home prematurely. Since then, they've been very tight lipped about the details, about what the medical crisis was, who it affected, and all they've really said up until recently was it wasn't an emergency. Like there was no lights online, nothing was hugely risked. It's just better to bring them home than to leave them up there. So we knew it was a stable situation. That's pretty much all that they said. Now that the crew has come back, we're getting a little bit more information, including as soon as these 4 people got back from the ISS, they were immediately taken to a hospital for evaluation and then subsequently released. They're back at Kennedy and they're doing fine. They're all stable right now as well. But what was the injury? I theorized during the change of command ceremony that I reacted to a couple weeks ago that it was an ankle injury because I saw one of the 4 people who were coming home wearing an ankle bracelet. So, or an ankle brace. So that was a little weird. Thought it might have something to do with that. But subsequently, they've come out and said it had something to do with prolonged exposure to zero gravity. And then this news here, space station crew credits the ultrasound machine for handling in orbit health crisis. So when I first saw this article, I immediately assumed, like most people, ultrasound, that's pregnancy related, right? Was there a pregnancy aboard the ISS that they found out about on the 7th and freaked out about, had a meeting, and decided to get the mother back and probably the father as well? Because there was a female astronaut who came back with that crew last week. So that was my initial thought as well. But when I started to look into it, I heard that news about NASA specifically saying it had something to do with prolonged exposure to zero gravity. That doesn't necessarily sound like pregnancy to me. It could be, hey, we don't want a pregnant woman to be in gravity for long. That could have prolonged effects. Sure. But of course, ultrasounds do more than deal with pregnancies. They're really good at spotting anything going on with human organs. So it could be that, our organs are specifically designed to be oriented towards the ground. If anyone is, flipped upside down, the blood rushes to your head and it's very uncomfortable. It's very weird. Your organs even feel funny. Your organs are designed with gravity in mind. So when there's not gravity, there are prolonged effects that could damage you in the long run. I mean, there's of course muscle atrophy. They have to work out ridiculously on the board the ISS to keep their muscles from atrophying too much. So when they come to the ground, they're just twig people. So they work out a lot to handle that. It affects their brain chemistry. Like zero gravity is not good for you. So it could be someone's organs started to fail, but they got it stabilized with medication and were able to bring it home. The astronauts who came back mentioned they had no idea how effective their medical training, their emergency medical training was until they were in a situation like that. So there was a response to it. It wasn't just, hey, I'm pregnant. What are we going to do? It sounds like there was an initial crisis while they had to figure out the situation before they stabilized whoever was involved. So I initially thought pregnancy. I'm leaning away from pregnancy and thinking maybe organ failure of some kind. But all 4 astronauts have been released from the hospital and are in stable condition. So no one's lives are on the line right now. It's just really interesting to have the ultrasound machine be the pivotal piece of technology, which leads me to believe organ failure or pregnancy. Those are the 2 logical assumptions from the information that we have right now, dismissing the ankle brace entirely at this point. But I don't know what you guys think. Do you guys lean towards more the pregnancy aspect? Do you lean towards the organ failure? Maybe it's something that I'm missing entirely. There are so many effects of zero gravity on a person that them saying that really doesn't narrow it down, besides saying they specifically said it wasn't an injury. So that also dismisses my ankle brace theory as well. So wasn't an injury, probably something going on with. That's my thought here. It would be interesting if it was a pregnancy. Can you imagine the first baby conceived in space? I'd wear that like a badge of honor if I were that kid, and it would just be a funny landmark. Finally, a kid, or at least as far as we know, conceived in space, maybe even born in space if they hadn't caught it in time. If they held off bringing her home if she was pregnant, you wouldn't want to bring her home. The trauma of re-entry would not be good on a pregnant woman. So if they didn't catch it in time, they could have left her up there. And that would have been insane studying the effects of zero gravity on an infant, seeing the evolution that takes place. It's not necessarily humane to do that on purpose, just to think, hey, let's experiment on this baby, put her in zero gravity. But if that happens naturally and that's deemed to be the safest option to leave them there, there's some interesting scientific discoveries and experimentation that can happen there that will help us in future live in zero gravity. Because at this point, we're pushing the bounds of our Earth. We're going out into the solar system. We're finally talking about a moon base, a Mars base, and everything like that. So we need studies like that. We need to see what prolonged effects of zero gravity have on the human body beyond just the ISS um, deployments. When they're up there for however many months they are, we need to start looking at year scales as well. And there's going to be people born in space eventually, or in lower gravities like Mars and the Moon. So that would be very interesting research. Obviously, it's not happening. I'm just being hypothetical right now. That just fascinates me. That absolutely fascinates me. The idea of a baby born in space and what that looks like. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but the crimes committed in space are 100% lesbian crimes. I don't know if you guys know about this. Yeah, there was a lesbian astronaut on the ISS who used NASA resources or something like that to hack private information about her ex partner. And so 100% of the documented space crimes are done by lesbians. Now we could be looking at the first pregnancy situation. That would be really funny to have, those happening so close together within a few years apart. And like Legatus is pointing out here, if she did get pregnant on, oh, you're not talking about that, sorry. But if she did get pregnant aboard the ISS, that could be a very legitimate reason for why they're being so hush hush about it. If it were just organ failure, I think they would have come out and talked about it by now. So that is a little bit of a con to that theory. When it comes to pregnancies, they let the parents be the sole decision makers on when that goes public. That's kind of a universal policy at a lot of these government and business organizations and stuff like that. So that could be a really good explanation for why they're being so hush hush about it. They're letting the mother figure out what she's going to do, living situations, everything like that. So who knows? Who knows? I see a lot of pros and cons to both pregnancy and organ failure at this. Judas says that's the ultimate Mile High Club member. Yeah, as the father, I would kind of brag about that as well. It's like, oh yeah, ISS, I made a baby up there. That would be you would have to really fight for me not to brag about that. Like there'd have to be NDAs. NASA would have to get involved and be like, dude, we are going to ruin you if you talk about this before we're ready. It would really take a fleet of people to keep me from bragging about joining that Mile High Club. I need to look up the exact mileage, but it's like 700 miles up, I believe, where the ISS is. So the first member of the 700-mile club, that would be really, really interesting. But Legata says, if she was, did it happen before going up or by someone while on the ISS? If up there, misconduct by her and him. Yeah, so if she is pregnant, it most likely occurred aboard the ISS just because they were up there for 2 months, I believe, and she's not showing or anything like that. And 6 weeks is about when you normally find out that you're pregnant. So the timeline makes more sense for her to be pregnant up there, especially with astronauts. They have to go into 2 weeks of quarantine before going into space and stuff like that. So it's unlikely that she had a chance to have physical contact with anyone on Earth prior to her. So if she is pregnant, I would assume it would happen aboard the ISS. And Legatus went on to say, and would explain why everyone of the crew was sent home all at once. Yeah, maybe the father isn't coming forward with saying it was him, but there were other people who stayed aboard the ISS. They didn't all leave. So I don't know if it's that. If they're just like, hey, all the potential fathers are coming back with us right now and we'll figure it out on Earth. Maybe it's something like that. I'm not sure about that since they left a bunch of people up there from other crews. But I think they probably brought everybody back to not single someone out. So they're very clear they don't want the public to know quite yet who had the medical crisis. And if it is her, they don't want people to know. If she came back alone or with just one man, people would know, hey, there's something going on with these two. But sending the whole crew back kind of helps with that anonymity, helps keep the wool over the public's eyes about it. I think that's more why they brought that whole crew back. But, they haven't disclosed anything. So this is all theorizing at this point. Dash says, didn't a woman poke a hole in the space station so she could leave early? Um, I don't I don't think so. I've definitely not heard that story, but yeah, I'd like to know more about that. Sam says, just think there's someone more sinister. There's something going. Just think there's something more sinister going on, like a fight or experiment. I don't think it's anything like that. They confirmed it's not injuries. There's no visible injury, so it's unlikely to be fight and experimentation. A lot of the experiments they do up there are of other varieties. Like they do a lot of biology research into plants. What plants can they grow in their hydroponics lab and stuff like that? What can survive? I actually know someone who works at NASA who's a biologist who works in that field. Hey, what can we get the astronauts to grow for themselves to keep their food supplies replenished without having to constantly, get supplies from Earth, or at least mitigate how much needs to be sent up to the ISS on a regular basis. So a lot of the experiments about stuff like that and biology. Biology is a lot of what they do on the ISS. They can't really do a whole lot of astronomy. The James Webb Space Telescope is taking care of most of the astronomy, so there's not a whole lot of astronomy that's going up there. I can't imagine what type of experiment they were doing that would be sinister at this point. I definitely don't read anything sinister at this point. Dash. Yeah, some woman came back after 2 weeks, coincidentally, after they discovered a 2 millimeter hole drilled into the hull from the inside. I need to look that up because they specifically said with this that this was the first time a crew had to come back early. Let me look that up. ISS woman drilled a hole. All right. In 2018, a 2 millimeter hole causing an air leak on the International Space Station was discovered by a Russian cosmonaut, by a Russian spacecraft. While Russian media reports suggested a theory that U.S. astronaut Serena may have caused it to return home early, NASA strenuously denied it, calling the allegations irresponsible. Okay. So, yeah, there was a hole discovered, and Russia is accused this U.S. astronaut of doing it to come home early. But I don't think she actually did come home early. And of course, NASA denied everything. So we don't know what happened. But yeah, unproven theories claim it was sabotage. Interesting. So yeah, it's not confirmed at this point, and it might have been a failed attempt to come home. I mean, there are psychological effects of being in zero gravity, like I mentioned earlier. It legitimately affects your brain chemistry. So I could totally believe someone went a little off the rails, went a little crazy, and tried to drill a hole. It's Space madness is absolutely a real thing. So I could believe it. I could believe that theory is 100% true. So unfortunately, it's not confirmed. Like that's just Russian allegations, but I would want to know the 100%. Legatus, yeah, that's what I was talking about, sealed by the crew, and subsequent investigations suggested it was either a product, a defect on the ground, or as suggested by the Russian media, a negligent repair. So there's a lot of legitimate theories for what happened, defect, repair issues, stuff like that. So there are legitimate ones. I can still buy that it was sabotage, though, and not necessarily malicious sabotage, just crazy person sabotage. And that also highlights the difference between science fiction and actual science. It doesn't explode. Explosive decompression happens on a larger scale. Like the hole has to be a lot larger for explosive decompression. Just drilling a hole isn't going to make the entire side of the space station blow up and suck everything out or anything like that. So, yeah, it's fairly believable. Any of the explanations are fairly believable. Sam, hard to believe she knew how to use the drill. JK. Maybe, yeah, that might be really good evidence for why it wasn't her, discounting the Russian theory. That's great. But we can move on to our next topic. We got a raid from Adam the Renaissance Nerd while I was talking there. welcome in anyone who joined me from the Daily Dive. I hope you enjoyed that stream, and I hope you will enjoy what we have coming today. Looks like, yeah, we got a fair amount of people watching, so this is a good time to talk about the next topic, which something that nobody talks about, something that nobody knows about anymore, that just fell off the public radar, is actually coming up very soon. We got important information about it this week. That is, of course, the Oscar nominations came out. Who fucking knew? Yes, as we've highlighted over the last few years, Oscar viewership has plummeted to an all-time low, and just trust in awards, industry awards, is at an all-time low. No one cares about Oscars anymore. So many people win who shouldn't, and it's almost laughable at this point who gets nominated and who doesn't get nominated. So this isn't going to be something that I spend a whole lot of time on, because I legitimately believe it doesn't matter. But we do need to highlight some of these nominations, if nothing else. So for Best Picture, the nominees are Ugania, I think that's how you pronounce that, F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, the Antifa movie that everyone in Hollywood is slobbering the knob of, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, Train Dream. So, to be absolutely fair, the only movie on this list that I've seen is Frankenstein, and I thought it was really good. It was beautifully well done. The cinematography, the art style, everything like that was phenomenal. I do think there are some issues with the plot that no one's really talking about. It doesn't adapt the story as well as it could. So there are writing issues with Frankenstein, but when it comes to pretty much everything else, the performances, the visual medium, it's near flawless. So absolutely deserves to be in conversation for this. And it is nice to see another streaming movie on there, because as much as I criticize streaming services and am an advocate, or very clear in my stance that a streaming movie physically cannot make money, I do want to highlight good quality content wherever it is, and good quality content should be acknowledged at awards like this, regardless of where it came from. So Frankenstein, I don't think made any money. I think it's impossible for it to make any money, but it's of high enough quality compared to everything else this year to be on this case, no matter whether or not it was a Netflix or. So it's great to see it there. I really don't care about most of these. I've heard about some of them. I don't know anything about the Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, or Train Dreams. Never heard of these ones. Hamnet, I only know about because they started the ad campaign a month ago or so, and I saw some ads for it. I have zero interest in any Chloe Zhao movie after The Eternals. I have zero interest in that actor from Gladiator 2, and I actually really love Shakespeare. I grew up reading so many Shakespeare novels, performed in several Shakespeare plays. Shakespeare holds a important place in my heart, and I don't want to see it bastardized and turned into some gay thing or some rom com or anything like that. I just am not interested in Hamnet whatsoever. These nominations are kind of sad, honestly. One Battle After Another and Sinners are sweeping it with the most nominations. Sinners, to be fair, I did hear was good. Didn't see it, but I heard it was good. But the buzz I heard about it doesn't equate to the highest nominated film of all time. It's nominated in 17 categories. I don't think it deserves that. I need to watch the film, of course, but that seems excessive for the level of hype that it got in response. They're saying in the chat, "Do not drill here in Russian. Ignored and drilled anyway." Yeah, Legatus. The female astronaut got drilled this time. First time she did the drilling. This time she got drilled. Very aptly put, Dash. For performances in a lead actor role, Timothy Chalamet, Leonardo DiCaprio, Ethan Hawke, Michael B. Jordan, and Wagner Moura. I don't know who that is, but the other four, while I don't necessarily think those movies were good, like One Battle After Another, I refuse to watch. I don't want to watch an Antifa movie. At least the people nominated are good actors this year. Timothy Chalamet, I don't like Dune. I don't like any of his performances, but I know he transformed himself for Marty Supreme. So I guess he deserves to be there. Leo is, of course, a great actor. Kind of crazy, but a great actor. Ethan Hawke and Michael B. Jordan, kind of the same thing as well. Good actors. So they deserve to be here. I don't know if their movies are the things that make them worthy of being on this list. Unfortunately, there's just not a whole lot of great movies that came out this year. Weapons is one of the only movies I saw in theaters this year that I thought was really good, that I enjoyed. So, as much as I'm criticizing these movies, what other competition was there? What other obvious movies are there? I can't think of anything that's not on this list that should be. And that's more something about the industry as a whole than about the Oscars. So I don't know anything about Wagner. I don't know about that performance or who that is or anything like that, who he is. But the other people are legitimate actors who, they deserve to be on this list considering the performance of an actor in a supporting role: Benicio del Toro, Jacob Eldery, Delroy Lindo, Sean Penn, and Stellan Skarsgård. Sentimental values on here quite a lot as well. I thought Jacob did a great job as Frankenstein. Again, I have some lore issues with that. I'm a big fan of the book, or I'm a fan of the book. I didn't love everything about the performance, but that had more to do with the writing than anything else. So this is the same thing as the last one. Legitimate actors for not so great movies half the time. Not a whole lot to say. A performance of actresses: Jessie Buckley, Rose Byrne, Kate Hudson, Renette Rensive, and Emma Stone. I didn't look at this list beforehand. I don't know what a lot of these nominations were. I didn't do any prep work. I just wanted to get a reaction to say, yeah, these nominations came out. Emma Stone, I think, is a legitimate actress, so I hope she gets it. Ellie Fanning for sentimental value. Igna, I'm not saying that one. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna read many more of these, but it's the problem with the industry as much as it is with the Oscars. No one watched most of these movies. I haven't even heard of sentimental value before looking at this list. That's an industry problem as much as it's an Oscar problem. Whoever wins, the entire public is going to forget about them in a month or two after the Oscars, if it even takes that long. So this is an irrelevant list about irrelevant awards, and that's just really sad to see. I do want to highlight here before I move on, though, Amy in Weapons. She played the old lady in Weapons, and she was absolutely phenomenal. It was a creepy role. She did a great job. So yeah, I'd say I'd like her to win in this category, but overall, it just doesn't matter. None of these I've really even heard of. So few of them I've heard of, and so few deserve to be there. Like, one battle after another does not deserve to be there. But where are the better films? Is the most important thing coming out of this. Going past these categories, I want to get to the writing category, which should be down here at the bottom. Achievement in visual effects. Yeah, best animated short, don't care about those. So writing. For adapted screenplay, Bugania, Frankenstein, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, and Train Dreams are on here. I didn't know One Battle After Another was adapted from. Is there a Hamnet book that she based it off of, or is adapting history count as adapting being an adapted screenplay? It's the same problem. Who deserves to be here? I'd say probably let Frankenstein win, even though, like I said, there are problems with the plot in Frankenstein. One Battle Another shouldn't be here. I miss when Oscars meant something. When winning an Oscar really was highlighting this was the best of the year. Pay attention to this person, to this movie, or whatever. And there was a point where a lot of people saw Oscar nominations, and if it was something a little bit more obscure, like sentimental value, people would be interested and be like, "Hey, the Oscars thought that movie was really good. They highlighted it a lot. Maybe I should go check it out." And then they go watch something that they otherwise wouldn't have and had a good chance of enjoying it. The Oscars could elevate something into the public's eye. Now, it's virtually irrelevant. Did anybody hear the news that Will Smith is going to be attending this year and is going to be doing a public apology? No, I don't think most people knew that because it doesn't matter, sadly. Writing for original screenplay, Blue Moon, that's been on here a lot. It was just an accident. Marty Supreme and sentimental value. That is a lot of writers for it was just an accident. Holy hell. What is that? One, two, three, four. These movies are written by too many people to be so poor quality. I don't care who wins a single one of these categories. Do you guys chat? Do you guys care who wins any of these categories? I was hoping there'd be at least something scandalous, something interesting to talk about, something surprising. None of this is surprising. None of this is even worth talking about. There's not even a controversial one like last year. What was that Hispanic trans movie that got nominated in every category? Amelia Perez, I believe it was called. That one was just insane that it was nominated. Nothing that I'm seeing here that's on that level. So, once again, the Oscars is slipping into obscurity, partly because of its own irrelevance, but partly because of the lack of quality from Hollywood in general for the last year. Sam says, "Your streams calm me down like no other." Well, I appreciate that, man. I don't know if that's a good thing or not from my perspective, like in the entertainment that I'm providing, but I'm glad they're calming. So I appreciate it. Legatus, in your opinion, they only want to make headlines, most nominations. Well, we'll also remember they have more nominations per category now than in the past, and a lot of quality films are disqualified for non-DEI. Yeah, the DEI requirements are really killing the nominations. That could be why the Odyssey is so diverse Oscar nominations. But that is kind of disappointing that Nolan would be Oscar hunting at Oscar chasing at this. He makes great movies. For the last decade or so, I've been more interested in the Razzie Awards than any others. I've never followed the Razzies, but it sounds like you think they're much more reliable, so that's good. I say an apology for what though? Hmm? No, it's a good thing. Love your work. Okay, I wasn't sure if it's like I'm so boring that I'm putting you to sleep or something like that. But no. I do appreciate the compliment. I really do appreciate that. Sam. I was just laughing about it. Rachel says, unless Will Smith slaps somebody again, I don't care enough to watch. Yeah, the one Oscars I actually watched, like I'd never watched Oscars in my life, just watched the results coming in and whatnot. I actually watched the slap live. That was the one and only Oscars I've ever seen. So if I was gonna do one in the 2020s or in the last 15 years, that was the one to pick. But nobody cares. They're gonna try to drum up controversy. There might be a slap 2.0 this time, just something to make the views spike. But it's all gimmicks. That's all the Oscars have left now is gimmicks. It's really sad. Yeah, like I said, the Oscars used to mean something. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King sweeping at the Oscars meant something that reflected how much people loved that movie. Now, when was the last time something like that happened? I can't even think of an example. The Oscars are irrelevant. The last time that people really talked about, I think, someone winning that they were excited about that was really important or was a good thing was when Leonardo DiCaprio run for The Revenant. He'd been Oscar hunting for years and years and years, and he finally made it. Because I do think Leo is a fairly talented actor. I really love him in Inception. I hate Titanic, but a lot of people love that. And it was about time that he won an Oscar. That was the last time I really think that it was super relevant, and that was 2015. That's really disappointing. Legatus, the Razzies are the anti-Hollywood, anti-Oscars. They showcase the worst of the worst film, worst directors, worst. Okay, so I can see why that would be a more entertaining at least who they're picking for that. That's funny. I say, oh, apology for the slap, little too late. No, yeah, apology for the slap. It's just, I mean, he apologized right after the slap and everything like that, and there was that public shaming tour he went on with the red table with his wife and everything like that. But this is the first time he's going back to the Oscars, so yeah, they're just acknowledging we're welcoming him back, but make sure everyone feels safe. Does everyone feel okay? Does everyone accept his apology? Does everyone believe that he's earnest and is sincere? It's absolutely ridiculous. You're 100% right, Sam. Judas the Goat. Compared to the Oscar ceremonies in the 40s, glamour, class, and great films, no comedians, no politics. And I want Hollywood class back. I want celebrity class back when the best of the best wore, you know, great dresses, tight suits, and not tight. I just mean like, non-flashy suits. And they projected this air of better than human. Of course, they weren't. They were regular people, but celebrity was something to aspire to. It seemed larger than life, and we've lost that. Now everyone's trying to outcompete themselves to be the weirdest person on the red carpet, the weirdest person at the Oscars. It's it's sad. It's so shallow, and they're trying to get clicks for being half naked all the time. I do appreciate a good pair of tits. All right, obviously I appreciate a good pair of tits. The red carpet isn't the right time to pull those out. Just buzzes up excitement. And that's all they have is superficial displays like that. Hardy should have won for The Revenant. See, I've never seen The Revenant, so I don't know of the different performances. I just remember that being the last big moment that people were talking about the Oscars when it happened. People were, talking about. There were water cooler moments about the Oscars. That's the last time I remember that being a thing. But I should check out the Revenant because I didn't even know Tom Hardy was in it. Tom Hardy at this point probably deserves an Oscar. He's incredible, an incredible actor. See, Sam, yes, I caught myself right after said tight. I knew there would be a reaction to that, so I tried to catch it there, but obviously it was too late. Too late. I don't know why. Sam, I can see your comment on the restream side, but it didn't come through on the YouTube side. So yeah, Sam just questioned that I said tight. Legatus, fans of the horrible live-action Snow White film are up in arms because of how many Razzies it was nominated for. Okay, so it is absolutely a legitimate thing. I will have to tune into the Razzies because, yeah, Snow White deserved to be nominated in pretty much every category. What was it last year? Jeez, I feel like Snow White should have been 2 years ago. Damn. But no, that's hilarious. Disney Snow White, a 2025 remake of the 1973 classic, scored a Worst Picture nod along with nominations for Worst Remake, Director, and Screenplay. Absolutely earned. They absolutely earned those nominations. Sam, you're getting clipped, my guy. It happens. You can't be a streamer like myself and not expect to be clipped on a regular basis. So go for it, man. They used to have tight suits. Oh, those men wore tight suits. Fueling the fire. Fueling the fire for you. On that note, let's talk about the next topic. Now, I often like to highlight breakthroughs of technology, things that I find exciting about quantum computers, about astronomy, astrophotography, and everything like that. Well, this time, I'm actually going to be doing the opposite. I'm going to be highlighting what is deemed to be a breakthrough in technology, but I isn't, and I'm going to try to shut it down. Well, not shut it down, really, but just counteract the news surrounding this topic. There's a startup believes they started dream communication. You guys believe that communication between humans in dreams is possible? Where this startup believes it's possible, and not only possible, but they claim to have done it. This startup claims to have successfully achieved first chat between two dreaming humans, quote, could unlock new dimensions. Now, of course, you look at that headline, and most people are going to be skeptical about that, rightfully so. And most of these articles are just fluffing it up. Absolutely on the side of this startup. I believe it's called REM Space, but they're hyping it up, making it believe it's real. So most people skeptical and then convinced. But I dove into it a little bit deeper. This article actually is one of the few that's getting the actual quotes and explains what this experiment was that supposedly proved this first chat between two dreaming humans, and it all falls apart. I'm saying this now. REM space, or whatever it's called, sounds like a scam. It absolutely sounds like a scam. Its research is not believable, and I do not think what they're claiming is true in any way, shape, or form. Researchers for a California startup claim they achieved the first ever communication between two humans while dreaming, is what is called a historic milestone that could unlock new dimensions. Okay, we're getting in. Historical milestone. Okay, if true, absolutely a historic milestone. REM space, a San Francisco Bay Area, a San Francisco Bay Area based neurotech company focused on lucid dreaming and sleep enhancement, shared that they now have twice had two humans successfully induced lucid dreams and exchanged a simple message. They're not revealing the type of technology, saying it's proprietary, and later on they mentioned there has been no peer review of their data. Nobody else, no third party, neutral people, no neutral parties are coming in to review this data to confirm it. That's already highly suspicious from a researcher perspective. But when you hear what they actually did, it gets so much worse. They're just talking about the apparatus a little bit, that it monitors things over Wi-Fi. Not a big problem at all. So here's the description of the experiment that supposedly proves lucid dreaming communication between two people is possible. The company has not shared what word that they were doing. Oh, it's up here, right here. All right, so the company induced a lucid dreaming state or a dream state with one candidate, their first candidate here, entered a dream state, and then it generated a random word and repeated it to the subject multiple times via his earbud. So they got this guy to fall asleep, put some headphones in his ear, and then started saying a random word in his ear over and over and over again. That's not communication to start with. And eventually, this candidate started to say the word. He like mumbled it, and they recorded it. Okay, that's not lucid dreaming. Even that's just outside influence. If anyone's fallen asleep listening to an audiobook or something like that, and then try to catch up the next day, probably get a sense of deja vu because your brain is kind of receiving the audio inputs and whatnot while you're sleeping and reflecting it back a little bit. So deja vu is very common in a situation like that. This isn't lucid dreaming. This isn't communication. This is just mumbling a word that you heard in your head. That's nothing at this point. Then the company, which didn't share the word, got a second participant, got him into the dream state, and played the recording of the first candidate mumbling the word, the secret word. 8 minutes later, the second candidate entered a lucid dream, and the server transmitted the stored message to them, which they repeated upon waking up, making the first ever chat exchanged in dreams. So, to highlight, dude fell asleep. Dude had word shoved into his ears repeatedly, mumbled it. They recorded that mumbling, got a second guy to fall asleep, and then bombarded him with the recording of the other guy to such a degree that when the guy woke up, he knew the word. That's absolutely nothing. That is not communication. That is not even lucid dreaming. That is something that is completely normal and studied by psychologists. There's no need for a crazy apparatus that they're keeping proprietary, and they're hiding their results. They're not letting peer review studies happen. This is a scam. I'm saying it, not just it looks like a scam. This is a scam. This is not research. This isn't proving anything. This isn't a new milestone. And they hype it up a lot here. Researchers at REM Space have achieved a historical milestone demonstrating that lucid dreams could unlock new dimensions of communication and humanity's potential. That's not communication. It's not unlocking any new dimensions. It's just playing a recording so much that somebody's able to remember it when they wake up, which is a completely normal thing. It's going on to talk about the communicating. The CEO of REM Space said, "This opens the door to countless commercial applications, reshaping how we think about communication and interaction with the dream world." The other comment that they said at some point is that this will be the next big science boom like AI. They're really hyping this up. Like, this changes the world, unlocks new dimensions, and commercial application. Imagine if we could force dreamers to read technical manuals or learn skills or watch commercials while they sleep, kind of like what is that, Futurama? They had ads projected into their sleep during that show. That's not what this is proved. There are no commercial applications for this. This is just normal therapy. There are therapists who actually recommend having like personal affirmations recorded and then listening to them while you sleep, and that helps your mood the next day. This is stuff that was proven years ago. This isn't breaking new territory. But of course, nearly every other article I've seen about it is hyping this up, accepting the CEO saying this is unlocking new human potential as fact and broadcasting it out. To be fair, not a whole lot of people are talking about it, but for the most part, those who are acting like this is the next stage in human evolution, that this will reshape the world, cause a paradigm shift. But what we have here is poor research hidden behind a veil that they think is going to change anything, but it's really just pathetic. This is honestly pathetic. And if they start asking for money, if they start campaigning or like trying to sell a product, do not buy anything REM Space puts out because it's going to be an absolute scam. It's disappointing to see science done in this manner. I like to highlight science. I really enjoy science, especially with astronomy. And when there's a new breakthrough that I think is legitimate, I'm going to praise it from the rooftops. But people like this, people like REM Space, degrade the reputation of scientists. They degrade science as a whole and make the general public untrusting of new developments. So REM Space is actively damaging the world of science by making this scam. And I think it's going to develop further with them trying to sell a product or anything like that. But I wanted to highlight it just so that everyone who watches knows what I think of the situation, saw those quotes that I highlighted, that you can, most likely agree with me that this is a scam and make an informed decision if REM space ever tries to sell anything and make this scam worse. Dash says two people with Elon's chip could certainly at least send static to each other while sleeping. And yeah, that one's fairly believable. Absolutely. The Neuralink scares the shit out of me. That's the one thing that Elon Musk is doing that I'm really not sure about. It's great with disabilities. Like, I'm completely fine with it the way that they've done it so far with, hey, someone who's a quadriplegic can now play a video game with it. That aspect of it is absolutely great. But if they start trying to implement it in healthy people who aren't getting overcoming a disability by using or something like that, I'm gonna get very, very concerned. But yeah, I can 100% believe that the chips would be able to communicate. That makes sense. They're not using any external technology besides a cassette recorder, basically, with this rig. So this isn't a progress in technology. Tape recorder could do exactly what they talked about here. The Weasel, based on this logic, I've unlocked another dimension by putting a sleeping friend's hand in warm water while they sleep, causing them to wet themselves. It's the same level. Absolutely, Weasel. Like, I know you're saying that as a joke, but it's true. That's the level of science that they're conducting at this point and acting like it's a breakthrough, pretending that no one's ever put their friend's hand in water before. It's so disappointing to see people lapping it up. A Peter Venkman level experiment, yeah, a little bit. Legatus, sleepwalking, talking in your sleep, snoring, etc. They will now take credit for that. Yeah, they'll probably try to take credit for that. Great TikTok, brainwash you in your sleep. Yeah, I can imagine if TikTok starts, having a play while you're sleep feature or something like that, that'll definitely cause some issues. Rachel Morgan says the fact that they aren't doing peer review is sketchy enough. Yeah, they're not letting anyone review their data yet. That's the fundamental aspect of science, to make sure it's done correctly, that you didn't miss anything. And it naturally happens. Sometimes you miss stuff. It's not a big deal. Like, a peer review finding problems isn't a big deal usually, as long as devastating or anything like that. But they're hiding their results. They're hiding their equipment. And when they actually describe their experiment, it sounds like something that everyday people could do with a cassette recorder. Start to have big problems with. Judas says the bigger scam is when the Raelians said they cloned the first human. I don't know the Raelians. That back in the day was like the Sally the goat or something like that. I don't know about that story. That's interesting. Legatus, we had long ago had companies claiming you could learn a new language by listening to their program while you sleep, and they were trying to see if they can do the same thing but recording only one side for now. Yeah, it's the same level of stuff, and the listening to another language while you sleep is helpful, but only in a minute detail. You can't learn a whole language like that, but it can help reinforce things that you learn throughout the day. And so there are benefits to listening to things while you sleep, but it's not a breakthrough. It's not anything new. Sam says, "Fucking Californians, what were they talking in the dream about? Racism? That's some of the most stupid shit you could say." Yeah, what was the word? It doesn't matter that you bombarded someone with a word while they were asleep. It doesn't even prove that they're in a lucid dreaming state. So, for those of you who don't know, lucid dreaming is when you have a little bit of control over your dream. You're able to shape it, remember it a little bit more, and stuff like that. Some people lucid dream more than others. It's not really a big thing, but you can't prove that someone is lucid dreaming as far as I'm aware. The person may be able to know themselves, but there's not like a outside reference to it. You can't like check, hey, their blood pressure's at this level, so they're lucid dreaming, or anything empirical like that. So the fact that they also said we induced a lucid dreaming state, not really a thing as far as I'm aware. Please, of course, correct me if lucid dreaming can be induced like that, but I don't believe it is. So it's, you know, they're claiming that they can induce lucid dreaming and then cause lucid dreaming communication, which isn't even actually happening. If they had both people asleep together at the same time and bombarded the one person with the word and he mumbled it and the other person heard it and remembered it, that's kind of communication. But recording it, the second guy knowing the word is no different than the first guy knowing the word. The first guy was bombarded with it in his earbuds. The second guy was bombarded with the same word, just a different recording of the word, a recording done by the first candidate. It's the same exact thing. The two candidate system doesn't change anything about this experiment at all. But yeah, it's Californians. Who knows what that word would be? And I saw earlier, Sam, you asked about my book, how my books are doing. So right now, the first short story in my book universe is available on endlessfrontierbooks.com called The Brighton Pacification. It covers a very important historical event that takes place a few years before the first book, and it shapes a lot of the. It's a really important historical event that I think a lot of people would be interested in. So that short story is up currently. The next 4 books in that series are done, packaged, ready to go. I just got to find the right time to publish them, and I got to know that there's going to be a response to it. That's why I'm trying to grow this channel as much as I am. Because right now, if I published it, I don't think I would get that many sales. To be honest, the Brighton Pacification short story, the website has reported only 1 sale. So publishing Jovian Abyss, the first novel, doesn't really make sense yet. So I'm just trying to get this channel into such a place where publishing that book makes sense, and then I'll publish it and periodically publish the other one. So that's where we're at right now, and I have plans for like another 15 after it. Like this book universe is going to be massive, but the first 4 will roll out as soon as, I know there's going to be a response to it, and I can maximize this channel. So that's how they're doing, and I can't wait to show it to you. All this world that I'm building, I really am proud of this universe. Sam, you sold me as a history buff myself. Okay. About my old books, uh my Greek mythology ones that are currently published, or about the new ones? I'm not sure, Sam. But yeah, I deal with history a lot, deal with mythology a lot, and this new series is going to deal with science more than anything else. But I did research a lot of history when it came to the Greek mythology books that I published back in the day, and these new ones. This historical event is pivotal. This Brighton pacification that I created, it it really defines the world as a whole, or the universe as a whole. Because science fiction, there's planets, but the Brighton pacification covers the rise of the S.U.A.C regime and how they came to power and everything like that, and the event that started it, triggering event. The best comparison to the level of how important it was is the Boston Tea Party. Think of the Brighton pacification as the Boston Tea Party. That would probably be the best thing. Like, you don't need the Boston Tea Party to understand the or the American Revolution, but it's very, very important to your understanding of the American Revolution and how America formed thereafter. Or another good example is the Boston Massacre. That's actually probably even better one than Boston Tea Party. Both of those events. That's the type of event that I'm talking about with the Brighton classification. Legata said, normal teenaged male, sorry, we can't release. And what we discovered, it was 95% boobs and butt. What? That okay, you're talking about that scam from a while ago about people saying they cloned someone. That's weird. 90% boobs and butt. That's really, really weird. Judith says, I work in medicine, and as far as I know, you can tell if someone is in the dream state or REM sleep with an EEG, but no way to tell if it's lucid or not. Yeah, yeah. REM, we know, can absolutely be determined, especially with, its rapid eye movement. You can look at the eyes under the eyelids and be able to tell. So REM, you can absolutely tell if someone's in. But lucid dreaming, I can't think of it anyway. So I agree with you that there's not really a way to tell if someone's lucid dreaming. That's a mental state. That's like saying externally you can tell if someone thinks in words or pictures. You can't tell that externally. The new ones I meant, sorry, Sam. So yeah, I think you'll really enjoy the Brighton pacification then, because it sets up everything from a historical perspective, leading into Jovian Abyss, and then on to Iris, Palace, and Centurion. Centurion's War, Book 1, The Stygian Lock. They all have a tie to the Brighton pacification. Some more than others, but the Brighton pacification sets up the war in a very important. Shows the transition from basically semi our modern world into this future that I've created. Because this is the future. All my books take place in a human centric universe in a few centuries from now. Like the Brighton pacification takes place in 2375 by our current, timeline understanding. So in over 300 years. And then the first book takes place starting in 2407, roughly. That's when the main events are occurring in 2407. So yeah, less than 400 years in the future is when the first book takes place, and then the next 4 take place over several centuries. They're disconnected, but in the same universe. If that makes sense. Sam, that's where Newsom is losing the tax money in his fucking dreams. I mean, that could explain where he's losing it. That's good, I Sam. Daryl, lucid is subjective and a fuzzy state. Yeah, that's an excellent point as well. I've lucid dreamed, but it's not like I see clearly as I do in real life or anything or have complete control. It's just a little bit extra and entirely subjective. You have to be told by someone, hey, I was in a lucid dreaming state. So this reeks of scam. This reeks of poor science. And yeah, that's a really good red flag, is them just saying they induce. It's absolutely ridiculous, this entire thing. But that was the last topic that I had. I was going to mention that I'd finished the Jurassic book finally, the Jurassic Park book finally, and I absolutely loved it. It makes me dislike the movie a little bit. I still love the movie, but my opinion of the movie went down just because of how great the original book was. I was going to talk about it in a little bit more detail, but we're already over the hour mark, so I'll table that for another time. So instead, let's switch over to the chat choose your own adventure segment of this stream, where you, the chat, with a combination of dice rolls, will help me craft a short story, and I think it'll be a lot of fun today. Oh, before we dive to that, however, we're going to get into the chat choose your own adventure in just a moment. Before we do that, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Plotter. This video is sponsored by Plotter. Every writer knows the drill. Staring at a blank page, characters ghosting you mid-plot, timelines unraveling like a bad sweater. That endless loop of what happens next, sucking the joy out of your story. I lived it. Outlines and chaos, competing storylines driving me mad. For the longest time, my notes were thick, blocked-out paragraphs, and my outlines were never-ending bullet points that stretched for more pages than my first drafts. Then I found Plotter, my plotting lifeline. Visual timelines that snap into place, drag-and-drop scenes to tame the wildest arcs, character sheets that keep everyone on track. It turned my latest novel, a 200,000-word juggernaut with multiple character perspectives and solar systems worth of lore, into an easy-to-understand, trackable project, complete with a series bible, multi-track storylines, and lore documents that make world-building a breeze. And check out their latest feature, a seamless note-taking system for all those story and character ideas that don't have a home yet. Available for free to all users of the Plotter app. For pro users, your notes and files will automatically sync across devices with cloud storage. If you're tired of the plot purgatory, use my link or scan the QR code to get Plotter for life with a single payment of $150. Your epic won't write itself, but with Plotter it'll flow like never before. Link in the description. Let Plotter help you conquer your stories. Perfect. There's the ad read out of the way. So let's dive into the chat choose your own adventure segment of this stream, where I will be using Plotter, not because they asked me to or whatnot. It just really felt like the best software for something like this. And together, we're going to craft a short story. Last week, we had a wild story about a dinosaur detective investigating the theft of a fossil from a museum. It got weird. It was fun. So for this segment, for those of you unaware, for the chat choose your own adventure, I will be using a combination of dice rolls and super chats to determine the major categories of the short story, the genre, lead character, stuff like that. And super chats can override any of the dice rolls. So for genre, for example, I'm going to roll, see if it's a science fiction story, fantasy, mystery, thriller, romance, parody, or chat choice. For chat choice, that's a free space. Just the chat can agree on whatever genre it's going to be for free. Just whatever consensus I kind of see from the chat is what we'll go for. But any super chat, the highest super chat starting at $1, can override any dice roll. So for example, if it rolls on mystery thriller and you want it to be something else, highest super chat starting at $1 can switch it to a parody or a fantasy or something like that, and applies to all the different categories. Once we're done with the dice rolling section, any super chat starting at $5 can introduce a twist. So I could be in the middle of crafting out the plot for this short story, and you come in with, hey, I want a Daisy Ridley tentacle monster to come in with 8 lightsabers and kill everyone. I've got to make it work. I've got to react to those twists as they come up. So we're really crafting this story together. These short stories are a lot of fun. If we reach the $100 in super chat threshold for this stream, I will schedule a second stream called Story Forge, where I will physically write out this short story and make it available to you, the chat, with exclusive artwork that my wife will draw during the Story Forge stream. So we get together, I write out the short story, she does some artwork for the short story, and then we put it out to the audience. So if you guys like the short story and want to see it written in a separate stream and get your hands on it, $100 threshold will get us there. But let's get started. So yeah, highest super chat starting at $1 can override any of these dice rolls. Let's start with genre. Our options are science fiction, fantasy, mystery, thriller, romance, parody, and chat choice. Let's see what the dice gods have in store for us. Okay, 6. Oh, this is the first chat choice. So, it's up to you, the chat, to pick the genre. If it's a parody, you can pick what it's a parody of, like Star Wars, Doctor Who, anything like that. So, it's entirely up to the chat right now what you have to say. If there's a consensus reached by everyone chatting, we'll go with that. If there's not a consensus, again, the high super chat starting at $1 can override the chat even in this category as well. So I'll let you guys think about that for a little bit while we move on to the next one. The lead character options this week are Bounty Hunter, Model, Narcoleptic, Oil Rigger, Homeless Person, and Chat Choice. Let's see what the dice has for it. 5. We're going with a homeless person. Okay. Don't know the genre yet, but homeless person is the main character. For setting, we have present day, past, future, non-human world, alternate universe, or chat choice. Let's see what we got. 4. Okay, a homeless person on a non-human world. Horror's Daryl's vote. All right, we'll see if the chat agrees with him about horror. Do I have horror on here? I don't have horror. Yeah. Sam. So I guess it could be a horror in Star Wars. The mentioning Star Wars was specifically about the parody, but we could make it a Star Wars parody. Absolutely, that's a legitimate vote. No need to retract that, Sam. So you could be voting for Star Wars parody or anything like that. For theme or style, we have Christmas, erotica, redemption, bravery, western, and chat choice. I really don't know what I'm ever gonna do if it lands on erotica. That might be weird. I probably should replace it, but I think it would be hilarious if it ever ends on up on erotica and I just have to fight to stay within YouTube censorship. I think it would be kind of funny. But let's see what we have. 6. We're getting all the chat choices this time, so you guys can pick the theme and style. It doesn't have to be anything on this list. It can be whatever you guys want it to be as well. So don't feel restricted to this list or anything like that. Hail Irish Whips, welcome in. We're just doing the chat choose your adventure segment to pick what short story we're going to craft together. So for right now, it looks like chat choices agreeing with horror. So it's going to be a horror story about a homeless person in a non-human world. Still need to get the theme and style from the chat. So if you have any suggestions, Irish Whip, for what the theme or style should be, feel free to drop it in chat. Doesn't have to be one of these, though. It could be anything you guys think of. Chat choice. For the wild card, we have Toad, Gold, Unicorn, Race Car, Zombie, and chat choice. What do we have here? We've had enough 6s. We have enough 6s. Yay, erotica. You're picking erotica? All right, we have competing ones. We have revenge and erotica for the theme. All these chat choices are making super chats irrelevant. All right, 4. A race car has to be involved. This is a weird fucking story. All right, it's a horror story about a homeless person in a non-human world with a race car, and you guys are deciding about the theme right now. So if there's too much disagreement, super chats can override it. So if someone has a strong opinion about what they want, highest super chat can override the chat. Right now we have a little bit of a disagreement between Sam saying erotica and Daryl saying revenge. So anybody else have a vote they want to cast for the setting or the theme or style? Judas says, is the homeless person a human in a non-human world or a person from that non-human world? That would be interesting. That would be up to the chat. Super chats can make that decision. Otherwise, I'm not sure. Homeless horror erotica with tentacles and Cthulhu. Oh God, like is erotica what's being voted on? Oh my God, if it's a homeless Cthulhu monster, a homeless Cthulhu monster, and doing it as a parody of My Fair Lady. All right, what do you guys think of that, chat? So for right now, I'm thinking it's in a Cthulhu type world, a non-human world about a homeless Cthulhu monster, and it's an erotica. I don't know where I'm gonna get the race car yet, but it's gonna start out being like My Fair Lady, where this rich Cthulhu monster finds this homeless Cthulhu monster and tries to, pretty her up, but it turns out to be a horror erotica nightmare fuel inside of the rich Cthulhu person's house. Got to figure out the race car. Could it just be a race car bed? I say I'm just memeing here, so no offense to your show. I'm not sure what you're talking about. You're absolutely fine. I Sam, absolutely fine. No offense. Taken. This is supposed to be weird. This is absolutely supposed to be weird. It's supposed to be fun. That's the point of this, is to be fun. So yeah, no, no. The point is kind of memeing. So you're absolutely. So Judas likes it. I think we might be going with. This is so weird. All right. Chat choice is still in play, but I'm going to go forward with those selections. If anyone has strong opinions, please absolutely let me know in chat, and super chats can still override any of those. I'm going to go with that for right now. Chat choice, we're going to put that. We're going to go with a horror story and a lead character who's a homeless person. Race car with a back seat, Daryl. We've made some weird stories here, like the vampire werewolf one we started off with, but I think this is the weirdest one yet. This is probably the weirdest one yet. I do need to figure out a way to include music into these streams. Just copyright is such a bitch that it's hard to get good music. But I think streams would benefit style and a Sam. The tentacles could be sticking out of the bottom of the car seat. God, this is weird, and I love it. All right, I absolutely love it. Judas, I love it, and throw in my support for $20. I appreciate that, Judas. So we have confirmation. Judas approves of all these different things. He's putting in his confirmation, so all the chat choices are locked in with what we have right now because of Judas. I appreciate the support. I'm glad you like it. It's gonna be weird. Irish Whips AI music. I need to see how one of those works. I've never investigated AI music, but for something like this, I don't think you guys would have a problem with me using AI music. So I should look into that. Absolutely. Legatus, a former chief of an alien world, had contract terminated and now wanders the street where non-humans are looking for exotic adventures and to see that human as their newest sport. All right, so that wasn't locked in by Judas. I don't believe we didn't decide. But Judas, I'll take your vote on this because you put in a $20 super chat. So it's up to you. Should this homeless person be a homeless human or a homeless Cthulhu monster? Entirely up to you. Daryl, a racy tail. A racy tail. I I'm going to use that as the title. If we get to Story Forge, if we get to the $100 super chat, which we are well on our way to, thanks to Judas, I will call the story A Racy Tale. It might be the subtitle if you guys want something else as the main title, but A Racy Tale will 100% be included in the title that I'll publish. I'll publish a story called A Racy Tale. This is so dumb, and I absolutely love it. All right. Story objectives. So, yep, horror, homeless person. I want to remove that extra line. You're fine with the homeless Cthulhu monster. All right, we're gonna go with the homeless Cthulhu monster. All right, so homeless, horror, non-human world, erotica, race car. What type of houses would Cthulhu monsters be living in? They need to have homes of some kind. Sam, you said race car. I heard race card, and it became weirder. A race card would be really funny and actually be easier to implement. So if anybody wants to change the wild card from race car to race card, I super chat starting at $1 can make that happen. I think a race card, pulling a race card at some point would be really, really funny. So, but that's up to you, the chat. All right, and at this point as well, wherever I'm at in the story, I could be, almost done with chapter 4 because that's usually where I like to do 3 or 4 chapters to this. If I'm there and you want to introduce a twist that I have to figure out and make it work, I super chat starting at $5 can make a twist happen. Anything you think of. At this point, we already have tentacle monsters, so my normal example of Daisy Ridley doesn't really apply. So, it could be, hey, the twist ending, they all magically transform into humans in business suits, and I have to make that happen. So we're in that category right now where twists are accepted. All right, so I'm going to start with chapter 1. We'll just call it opening for right now. Irish whips. He stays in an abandoned gym with an old WWE style ring. Interesting. All right. So for the opening, just a little bit of world building. What type of houses would DEI for Cthulhu monsters? See, that's what I mean about the race car. Race card. I think that would be really funny. All right. Let's see. Opening. I want to set up this world. Imagining a dark world, no sunlight, thick clouds, Venus like. I'm imagining houses much like those towers that you see cats have with the multiple platforms that they climb up because their tentacles would make the Cthulhu monster be able to climb those. They build more vertically than we as humans would for just individual houses. So I'm imagining something like that, um, where they're still encased. A potato cellar. I'm not sure where you're getting these from, Daryl, but these are wild suggestions you're making. Right, so Venus-like clouds, cat tower-like homes, levels enclosed. This is like random word generator type ship. Yep, exactly, Sam. That's kind of what we're going for. It's just a fun little writing experiment, and I really enjoy it from a writing perspective because it keeps my skills sharp when I'm in between writing books like I am right now. So yeah, this is random word generator basically with you guys and dice rolls filling in for the random word generator. At levels encased in tubes, homeless, Cthulhu. What should his name be? I'm gonna call him Tenty for right now, as in tentacles, but just shorthand if anybody wants something else. I'm gonna call him Tenty. I Sam, the twist would be that a lesbian drills the race car. That would be a good twist, I Sam. That would absolutely be a good twist. All right, so Tenty on the street. Um, uh, Tenty. We'll make him. We'll make her a veteran. What could she have done in her past life? And we'll make her a veteran. Why not? Veteran of the great... The great human wars when they tried to invade Earth. And were driven out. No one takes care of veterans. Begging for scraps. Alright, we have the setting. Irish Whips for $1.99 says Cthulhu trying to escape poverty via pro wrestling. All right, we'll go with the $2 for the twist. I'll accept it. Normally we do $5 for twist, but I'll absolutely accept it from you. Legatus, for all the new people in the chat, want to tell them when this will be finished and how they can see here the completed product. Absolutely. So appreciate it, Daryl. Yeah, sometimes you just miss words, and I gotta go back and read when we finish each section anyway. But yeah, so for those of you who aren't aware, so after we finish this outline on today's stream, if we hit the $100 super chat threshold, which we're well on the way to, I'll schedule a second stream called Story Forge later on in the week, where I will get together with my wife, who's an artist, and I'll start writing out this short story, and she'll draw some unique artwork for it, some original artwork for it. And at that stream, I do plan on having it done in that stream. Unlike the first Story Forge, I'm going to have an outline all ready to go beforehand, get all my things together, so it's not as much figuring it out as on the first Story Forge. So we'll write it out on Story Forge, hopefully finish it there. If not, I'll finish it quickly in my own time, and it should come out the next week. So by the next Writer Flight after the Story Forge, the short story, as well as the artwork that my wife draws, will be available for members of the YouTube channel. And there's a Google Drive link that is available to all members that includes all the Story Forge stories. So the werewolf story is currently in there for anyone who's interested in becoming a member to check out that short story. And so it should be a week. That's the goal of these, is within a week, these short stories, after we get to that $100 threshold, those short stories and some artwork for it should be available to everybody. Irish Whip. Oh, here, let's make it official. Appreciate the support, Irish Whip. So, yes, it's $7 for the twist. I appreciate it, absolutely. So, yeah, we're going to make it that the monster is trying to escape poverty via pro wrestling. Okay, let's do that. That'll be the next one. Project Agent. Call it the Agent. Homeless fight in an alley over scraps. Tenty intervenes. Tenty intervenes to stop the fight. Dominates with military training. Wrestling agent happens to be rolling by, because I don't imagine Cthulhu monsters walk, so we'll use rolling by. Sees the fight, recruits for WWE style fights. This is pretty weird. Tenty accepts. Perfect. And then we'll just finish out the chapter with a training montage to make things easy. NT training for first match using wrestling to escape poverty. I Sam kind of broke, so can't send support right now. Just lurking. Don't worry about it, man. Absolutely. I appreciate everyone who's here. That's why I implemented the dice rolls. We don't need the super chats. We still make stories regardless and have a lot of fun, and the chat choice free spaces or whatnot. So no need to apologize, man. I absolutely get it. A couple months ago, the IT department where I worked was dissolved and outsourced overseas, so all of us got fired, and I still haven't been able to find a new job since. So I totally get being careful with money right now. So there's no need to apologize, I Sam. None whatsoever. I appreciate you being. All right. So Tenti using wrestling to escape money. Creepy, erotic, tentacle wrestling, including some of that here. All right. What do we? A horror, homeless person, already knocking that out. We gotta figure out the race car. What if we include it here? Rolling by in race. Entity drawn by the proof of wealth that the car is. Agent implies they can only seal their partnership with sex. Twist and shout together in the back of the race car. Cthulhu wastes money on race car after winning the fight. We could absolutely do that. Chat, just a free space. No need for super chats for this one. Would you guys rather it be an erotic twist and shout here with the agent to get the job in the race car, or moving the race car to after winning the? Completely up to you guys, chat. That book back to it. All right, now we need to get into some of the horror aspects of it. We'll have the first fight. Wrestling match. NT struggles. Manages win. Celebrates with hookers and buying her own race car. Irish Whips is his agent Vince McMahon. I mean, if we're going wrestling, it kind of makes sense to have a bit of a Vince McMahon reference. So, yeah. Vince McCthulhu. Terrible. All right, celebrities with hookers buying race car. All right. Car pays too hard. Party too hard. That'll be a bit of a segment. And then invitation. I Sam thinks it's a girl and starts fucking, then horror. The tentacles come out. All right. And wake up groggy. Thinking maybe a blackmail situation to get into the rich person's house. The Vince McMahon house. Actually, no, we can have the party be at Vince McMahon. I'm just gonna call Vince the agent. Invites NT over for a party. The house is empty. Checks. Different levels. No one there. Doors locked. So starting to get a little bit of the horror. Starting freak out. No windows. Finds room with chains and BDSM stuff. So, I can't believe I'm doing this, but whatever. Here's Vince. Hail Daryl with a $10 super chat saying femme to femme erotica sounds better. Tag team duo. All right, well, I could do femme to femme erotica, not a problem whatsoever. Tag team duo. What do you mean by that? Do you want a second wrestler there for the femme to femme, or I can change Vince, who's gonna be the horror antagonist to Valerie or something like that, and it'd be like that. But yeah, I'm not sure what the tag team is. But absolutely, thank you for the support. What are we at right now? We're at $37. And for those of you who don't want to send YouTube money, of course, let me repin that. I have a Stream Elements link as well that should be pinned in the chat right now. I'll check that just to make sure. And for the kick side, gifted subs or subs in general would count as super chats as well. Second wrestler on the same team. Okay. I'll add in a second wrestler. So it's them getting on with the horror aspect of Vince. We'll introduce. Becomes friends with other wrestler. Call her. Holy. We'll call her Holy. NT and Holy. Do I for consistency's sake. Alright, so Tenty and Holy. Holy happy for Tenty. I Sam, Mana Cthulhu, meet and talk only in their stupid fucking dreams. that would be funny. Alright. Celebrates with her. Tenty brings Holy. Oh, there. And we're gonna have it here. Tenty and Holy get drunk. Forget about everyone else. And bang the tentacles off each other. Alright, that extends that scene. I didn't know what I was going to be doing for that scene, so adding in the other tentacle monster works out. Second monster corrupts her teammate to do horrific things to Vince. Ooh. That'll be good. That'll be good. Alright, reveal. Here's Vince. Peeks around a corner. He's in a gimp leather suit, calling to her. This is so weird. But yeah, I'll have Holy come back for the final chapter then, and they'll do horrible things to Vince. There we go. Yeah, we got to get the horror aspect. Chase. Secret tunnels and passageways. Secret tunnels and passageways. Hiding from Vince. Legatus, Rachel is probably shaking her head and laughing at this right now. Alright, hiding from Vince. Or Irish Rips is correct. This is pure cinema. Absolutely pure cinema. So yes, we are at $37, almost halfway to the Story Forge threshold. You guys want to see the cinema come to life with a short story and artwork. Rachel will have to draw some things from the short story. So if you have a weird tentacle fetish, here's a cheap way of getting some original artwork for that. I'm pimping out my... Alright, horror. Vince, slow. Moving. Gets off on cat and mouse. Alright, chase. Capture. Vince catches up to her. Ooh, I Sam. A Holly betrayal. That would be interesting. Daryl put in the super chat, so we're gonna go with him saying that Holly corrupts Tenty to do horrible things to Vince, but that is absolutely a different way we could go about it if someone wants to send in a super chat for that. Irish whips. Jed is like Anakin going to the dark side. What have I done? Just a bit. All right, Vince catches up to her in the dark. Fight. Overpowers. Sure. We'll call it Union. Legata says Irish whips. It was unavoidable. It was Jed's destiny. Was my destiny to go dark side. Absolutely. This is great, actually. All right. Union wakes up in chains. Vince comes forward. Teasing and drawing BDSM out. Using whips. Call them Irish whips. Yeah, Irish whips. Vince is using you against Tenty. Using... Ooh, interesting, Isam. Yeah, keep merging those two ideas. That's a good idea. Using whips and other tools. Getting off on the anticipation. Using Irish whips. There we go. And that would explain why Holly's still in the house. So I actually really like that Isam, giving her a reason to be. Holly comes out of the dark and knocks out Vince. Freeze. Tenty. Tearful hugs. Turntables. My, how the turntables. Vince is tied up in BDSM gear. NT and Holly are deciding what to do. Still can't get out. Still can't get out or call or help. His wife will definitely not be drawing this. I say she drew the werewolf basically erotica before. She'll draw it. Rachel will absolutely draw. I have no question about that. That sounds too simple, similar to the Undertaker acolyte story, where Vince was revealed to be the leader after all. I don't know WWE stories at all. I've never actually watched wrestling, not really. So I don't know if this has already happened before, but I still think it's funny. All right, get out for uh, Holy wants revenge on Vince. Anger. Psychs Tenty up. Psychs Tenty up. Thanks for horny with fishes and tentacles. Going to enact their revenge on Vince. This one's going to be simple. Holy and Tenty bang Vince. He pretends not to like it. Yeah, I actually really like your twist, Sam, that Holly was actually working with Vince, because that explains why she's still there and why she would convince Henty for the revenge sex. So I think the twist actually fills in some plot holes. Uh, all finished and satisfied. Henty not scared. Afraid to admit she kind of liked it. Holly releases Vince, reveals they were working together the whole time. They were working together the whole time. And it was all foreplay. Alright, the last one we have to decide, chat. I think Tenty's going to be okay with it, partially because of the career, partly because she's turning into a freak herself. So I'm thinking the ending is she decides to stay with Holy and Vince. You guys think that ending makes sense? Otherwise, we can figure something else out. Unlock the house. Henty is free to or not stay. If she leaves, she can't wrestle anymore and would go back to the streets. Go back. Decides to stay. Things Holy and Vince again. The end. Fucking hell was this? I knew if erotica was ever picked, it would turn weird. I knew that's what was going to happen. Things were gonna get fucking weird. Oh. KBS. I'm getting a report from YouTube that my audio bit rate is coming in a little low. So let me know if you guys are having any issues hearing. Rachel, I'm back. Sorry I had a meeting. What's the story about this time? Oh. Oh. I'll recap it in just a moment. Daryl, for a true horror, there has to be a sense of helplessness. And I think I have that with the whole, if she doesn't stay, she's going to end up being homeless again. So I think the helplessness is still there. But if you want me to do something else, absolutely let me know, Daryl. But Rachel, what we have right now is a Cthulhu story. It's an alternate world where Cthulhu-type monsters are the inhabitants. The main character is a homeless woman who used to be a veteran of the human Cthulhu wars. She's homeless, right? And she uses her military training to break up a fight among other homeless people, and a wrestling agent happens to see it, so he decides to recruit her. And this is a horror erotica story. So he demands that they bang in the back of his race car to get the job. She does it. Then there's some training montages as she prepares to be a wrestler, WWE style, and meets another wrestler named Holy. I swear, Rachel, this wasn't all my idea. It mostly wasn't my idea. This is the chat's fault. Blame the chat. And the wrestling happens, the first match happens, and Tenti, the homeless woman, wins. There's partying, there's drugs, there's an actual party at Vince, the agent's house, where Holy and Tenti get it on. Then Tenti wakes up, everybody else is gone. She's alone in the house, and it turns out that Vince is a bit freaky deaky. He's in a Cthulhu leather gimp suit, chasing her throughout the house. There's a horror sequence where she's trying to get away from him. He captures her. He's gonna start doing some BDSM type shit to her, but luckily Holy's there. Holy comes in, knocks out Vince, and they tie him up, but they can't get out of the house. It's still locked. What are they gonna do? So Holy convinces Tenti to enact their revenge by banging Vince. So they bang Vince. He pretends not to like it, and then it's revealed that Holy and Vince are a couple, and this was all foreplay to them. So Tenti has to decide whether or not she wants to go back to being a homeless person or stay, and she decides to stay. That fills the horror erotica race car bed non-human world and the homeless person. That checks all the boxes for this story. Sam, whoa. When did you feel these ideas in? I zoned out. That was throughout all of this. Yeah, that's what the super chats were. Yeah, that's where we're at. Sam. Rachel, oh good lord, I kind of hope nobody donated enough to make me draw this. We're close. We're at $37, Rachel. So we're almost halfway, but I don't think we're gonna make it. So you probably won't have to draw it, but chat, if you want to make my wife draw this tentacle monstrosity, only need, what is that? I'm really bad at math right now. $63. Judas saying to Daryl, maybe Vince has some magical charm or power that keeps Holy young or attractive, etc. And if she leaves him, she will age or revert back to her original form. That could be something for Holy as well. But right now, this is the story as it is. If anybody wants to make changes, Highest super chat starting at $5 can introduce a twist. If you want to undo anything that Daryl put in, for example, you need to, outdo his super chat. It's kind of the rule. So highest super chat affecting each thing. We can change it. We can leave it as it is, and only $63 more, and we can make this happen. The fucking images I thought of, shit. Yeah, maybe you guys don't want to actually see this. Maybe you're gonna send money to make Storyforge not happen. This is fucking wild. Let me make sure no one's been chatting on Kick. They might have gotten drowned out. Oh, more bots, Legatus doing the Lord's work. They're taking care of them. So I think that's where we're at. I think we're gonna lock in this fucking story. I'm a little relieved that I don't have to actually write it out. It was fun to craft out like this. Absolutely still enjoy trying to make the plot make sense and everything like that. But writing this in actual might have been insane. So I'm not disappointed that we haven't qualified for a story forge quite yet in the stream. So I think we'll leave it there. But I hope you all enjoyed that chat choose your own adventure segment of the Write or Fight podcast. It was fun. It's wild, though. I do feel like I'm turning a little bit to the dark side, thanks to you. Makes sense, yeah. Sam, the plot makes sense to a certain, like in context of the world. There's continuity. The scenes logically progress in connective tissue. No, I still would say that makes sense. Rachel, well done to you plotting out a semi-cohesive story out of this mess. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. You're not at all biased saying that at all, complimenting me, but I appreciate it. Yes, I think it does make sense. But it was fun regardless, and I hope you all enjoyed that. That brings us to the end of the show, unfortunately. Unless anybody wants to make Storyforge happen with a massive donation, we're going to call it quits there and bookmark this monstrosity for a later date. For this week, I just have regularly scheduled live streams. Whenever I get a chance, I'll try to stream some Star Wars Genesis, the Starfield mod that makes a Star Wars game inside of Starfield. I'll stream that whenever I get a chance this week. And then this Thursday, Starfleet Academy Episode 4 comes out, and we'll be making my review of it, so expect that either Thursday or Friday, depending on when I get it done. And then this Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern is when the review stream for Starfleet Academy Episode 4 will be coming out, where Duke Devil 95, Adam the Renaissance Nerd, and Dermy Wormy, along with myself, will be discussing it. So tune into that if you're interested. And sometime after that, Saturday Night Drive-In will come out, where we're going to be talking about Remember the Titans. So tune into that discussion if you're interested in. And then right back here next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern for another Writer Flight, where we're going to craft another Chat Choose Your Own Adventure. And every week, stories we come up with surprise me. But thank you all for watching, tuning in, whether or not you were on the YouTube side or the Kick side. Hail to Sam, Daryl, Rachel, Judas, Irish Goats, Legatus Legionus, and everybody else who is chatting or lurking. I appreciate you all. Daryl says, dang, Rachel, can't work on your artist skills. Yeah, I'm sorry, Rachel, you won't be able to practice your artwork. Figuring out how to deal with tentacles all weaving together. I'm sure you're very disappointed that you won't have to figure out how to do that. Sam, oh, how silly of me for not believing Vince and Cthulhu fucking. It's not the real Vince McMahon. It's just a Cthulhu monster named Vince. But funny shit, though. Love it. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Sam. Legatus, thanks for the show and all those donating made this story possible. Yes, thank you for all the donations. Thank you to Judas for the $20 super chat to get us all locked in. To Irish Whips for the twists about the pro wrestling. And of course to Daryl for making it a lesbian story. I appreciate all your donations and am glad you all enjoyed it. But anyway, that's all I have for today. If you enjoyed this stream, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. The more support this channel gets, the closer we are to publishing the Endless Frontier novels. Until then, have a stellar day and stay curious.